Alright. Good afternoon, guys. My name is Reed. So right now me and Dre, we're gonna do a coffee workshop for Drip Coffee. And the topic we're gonna discuss today is decoding your coffee. Now a little bit about DOC, Drip Coffee, which is a student coffee social club that I found just over a year and a half ago at UMD. And what we do at DOC is we try to bridge students, like basically bridge the gap between the specialty coffee and this massive new generation of coffee drinkers. So at DOC, we will elevate your coffee experience. We develop your coffee brewing skills, as we're going to show you guys later on. And most importantly, we're going to connect you with basically people outside of your circle, because we see coffee as a global language, and we see specialty coffee specifically is the sustainable way to do so. And we're trying to basically promote specialty coffee, trying to get you guys out of drinking Starbucks. And also basically we're going to teach you a variety of ways to make your own coffee at home, ranging from pour overs, which is what we're going to demonstrate later, to AeroPress, and all the way to beautiful lattes with fancy latte arts. All right, so there are usually 4 aspects when it comes to coffee crafting and why you should start doing it yourself, comparing to actually going to a coffee shop and get your own coffee. So basically, it saves you time and money. On average, I spend probably 20 cents on my coffee every day, and usually I wouldn't get the same quality of the coffee at coffee shop for basically anything less than $5. And also it's fully customizable, meaning you can truly have full control over what the flavors you want to bring out of your coffee beans, and how you want to, do you want it to be more acidic, or do you want it to be more chocolatey? And it's all going to be in the palm of your hand as you get to start making your coffee from scratch. And lastly, we see as the most important aspect of coffee crafting, which is be able to use it as a social tool to help you connect with others by just saying, hey, instead of going to a coffee shop, let's just connect over my coffee. And we've seen that to be a really successful way of almost like a social tool that's going to help you not only socialize with, make friends, but also help you to even, for me, it's like my way of talking to investors. So with that, my name is Reed. I'm the president and founder of DOC. And as you can see, some of my not most recent latte art work, but one of my inspiration to start coffee is because of the art. Because I think if a coffee looks good, then it's gonna be impossible to taste bad.
Hi, my name is G, and I'm the vice president. I got into coffee because when I was in my freshman year of high school, I got trained to be a certified barista, and I realized that coffee was a way that you can talk to anyone. You may not like it, but even then you can be like, oh, I don't really like this coffee, but I taste this out of it, or I taste this out of it. And the other people can you can converse through it, but also it's a really good place to socialize and things like that. So yeah.
All right, with that, we'll have DOC 101, which is we want you guys to walk away with something that you didn't know about coffee. And the first thing we're going to show you guys is this. So anyone know this drink or have ordered it in the past? Yeah, I used to work at Starbucks, so this is the most popular drinks that we offer. And unfortunately, Starbucks kind of made their own twists around the word macchiato. A true macchiato is not, look like this. In fact, it's much smaller. And it's basically a double shot espresso. and just a dab of milk foam. And that's what macchiato actually is. So clearly, there's a lot of things to say about coffee.
So with that, there's a lot of aspects to coffee, to the beans, where they're from, things like that. So generally, it can be kind of divvied up into three sections. You have your Central and South America, where you get more of the nutty and chocolatey kind of flavoring. Not really flavoring, but the taste out of your coffee beans. Africa and the Middle East more have the fruity and citrusy, which means that there's more acidic, like a more acidic body to your coffees. And Asia and the Pacific, you get this more herbal and earthy. Now, you might see these, you're like, I'm gonna like if I get these beans, I'm gonna taste like chocolate. But here's the facts that it might smell like chocolate or it might taste a little bit more nuttier than what you smell. It's all based on what you've experienced, and that's like the coolest thing about coffee here is that when you do your own coffee, you taste what you know, and someone else won't have the same taste as you because you might have had more fruits in your life, or someone might have had more different chocolates in their life. It's going to be different. So along with that, there's three kinds of roast that beans are having. There's light roast, and that one you get the more high acidity, high acidity and fruity smells. Medium roast, you get more of a balanced, so it's not too acidic, not too like flavorful, I guess you could say. And you get more of a sweeter taste. And dark roast, you get more of a richer taste, and it's going to be more bitter. So now Reed is going to show how drip coffee works. So there's so at our socials we show three kinds of ways of making coffee. There's an AeroPress, which is kind of like one of the easier ways to do things. There is the drip, which we're about to show you. And we also do have an espresso machine that we do make lattes at our socials. So we do latte art as well. So with this, there's a couple steps through it. So first you want to grind your beans, and we already pre-grounded ours. And for specifically drip, you want a lot coarser. Okay, you want a lot coarser grind because you don't want everything to kind of go all the way straight through, and you don't want a difficult time with the brewing process. So we all manually grind our own beans there, except for the espresso machine. So it's just like a good old hand crank. You can see you. So different grinds can also bring out different flavors of your coffee beans. So there's a lot about this, which you're about to see is also about experimentation. There's different recipes you can use. There's no solid recipe. You can change it up however you want. How hot the water is, how coarse your grinds, the kind of beans you use, even the type of filters, the type of drip, that all comes into how the coffee will taste out in the very end. So, yeah, got it. So usually, there's different recipes, and I'll explain mine. It might not be the one that Reed's going to make, but I do about 15 grams of beans and then 200 water. And you divvy up the water into a couple different pours because it's very important to bloom your beans. So what you're about to see is Reed's doing the first kind of pour. And if you're able to see it above, can't make that any bigger, but when you first look down into your coffee, it starts to bubble up. And all this bubble is the CO2 coming out of your coffee grinds. And so that means that the beans they're opening up. And when you do your next pour, this is the brewing stage. This is where you're starting to brew and get the flavors from your grinds coming out. So some people do it in 3 pours, some people do it in 4 pours. It kind of is up to you. And Generally takes about 2 minutes, 2.5, depending, of course, on the recipe. So if you ever get into drip, you don't exactly need a scale or anything just to start out with. You can just do it without. It is recommended that you get this sort of kind of pot. It's called a gooseneck. And it's literally because of the neck that we have. It makes it much simpler and much easier to pour, because when you do it, you want to go in a circular motion. And so you can get all the beans and hydrate all of them. And then you're able to brew it a lot better. And that is it. We can't exactly serve it right now, but as you can see, it might sound, as I explained it sounds very complicated because there's so many aspects of it. But when you try it yourself one day, or if you come to our socials and like check it out and try it, you can see that it's a much simpler process than you think, and also tastes much better than what you get at Starbucks.
All right, so since we're not allowed to serve this coffee because of hotel policy, but so I'm just gonna have this for myself. But we do usually serve them our coffee social events. We also serve latte shots. We usually put some beautiful latte art, and with that we can move on to the
Next slide.
Yeah, so as I said before, one of the things that got me into coffee was not exactly the taste of it. It's just the fact that people can make fancy, complicated patterns using just milk and coffee, basically. So here's like a thing that I want you guys to see. All right. So the GIF usually is not as glitchy as this, but the idea is when we're talking about latte art, right? When we speak of like espresso machine, there's like a stereotype idea that coffee, like espresso, especially if you want to make fancy arts, the entrance, at least the equipment, the price of it is extremely expensive. And it's true for some cases. Like the machine that allows me to pour the arts, the machine I was using, it's actually not $2,000. $2,000 is actually the entrance price for any espresso machine. It's actually $20,000 just for that single espresso machine. And however, you might wonder, like, why is it so expensive? Like, why is espresso machine such a high sought after, like almost like a status symbol? If you have like a fancy espresso machine at home, it means like you're filthy rich. But in fact, because the mechanics of how espresso is made, it requires really high precision PID, like temperature controlled, like a monitor system to make sure that every single water that flows through the coffee puck will evenly distribute the coffee and make sure that the coffee that come out is not going to be bitter or like super strong, but it's like in an intense way, but in a good way. And also it allows you to steam the milk, which is going to give you that microphone that allows you to basically use your milk as a brush to basically paint a pattern on top of your latte. And right here, I'm doing a really classic design in latte art. It's called a tulip. And as you can see, I'm stacking up each design, each circle, and with each stack, it's going to give me more layer, basically a more complicated art. And the final pull through was basically just sinking down all the middle parts and draw a line through the art. And it's going to give you a really, really beautiful latte art that just by looking at it, you know the coffee will taste super good. And here's the final review. Oh, this one's a lot better. However, this one, guess how much it actually cost me to make this latte?
$0.
Well, it's actually pretty close. It only cost me $50 to make this one with the equipment I have. So it's basically like what we call a AeroPress, which we're also gonna include in our social. Our AeroPress allows you to make the coffee in both filter and espresso-like. It's not exactly espresso, but it is similar to the texture of it. It's basically a really strong coffee that allows you to set the base for your art to form that contrast between a brownish canvas and the white part, which is the art. And on the right side is what we call a nano foamer. It's basically a really fancy, not really fancy, but like a milk frother that has a string on top of the frother tip, allows you to evenly frost basically the bubbles. Well, actually, a better way to put it would be they actually distribute, they suck in the big bubbles and kind of through the screen and make sure they are super tiny holes and basically make them microfoam, which is what allows us to use milk as a pen to draw the arts. So that's it. Like you can see, like if you want to put fancy art, it doesn't really have that high of a standard. Like say you gotta spend thousands of dollars to get a fancy espresso machine and to make arts. You can just get started like I did, because I don't have the budget to buy a super fancy one back then. So that's how I started. You know, that's just a milk frother and a classic looking coffee brewer, and here you can still practice art that way. And basically, once you get to this level, you'll basically make better coffee than 90% of cafes out there because they don't really put that much attention into the coffee. All right, what's that?
So thank you for coming to our workshop. If you are further interested, we do have an Instagram that we post a lot of our information. We also do have a group me. And also if you do have any questions, you can just come up to us and we'll answer them the best you can. And on that note, does anyone have any questions, whether that's on the process or what we do? Not? Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I guess no, I'm not gonna risk it.
Don't risk it.
Yeah, I was gonna give you guys the coffee, but I don't wanna cause that any trouble. But definitely come to our social. It's super fun. It's basically a social event where we come in and hang out. It's like a cafe on campus, but you get your coffee for free and you get to make basically cool people outside your circle. So yeah, thank you guys.